Core, and today we're talking about my best advice, cosmetics and fragrance. Now, always take things with a large grain of salt. Everyone's mileage may vary, and I only know what I know at this stage in my life, and I'm open to the fact that I could probably use a lot more education, but I'm just sharing some of the thoughts that I have as far as what's my value added to this internet world of beauty. And some of it is just the little things that I've picked up along the way. And so we're gonna start out with my best advice. All right, so where this came from, a friend of mine had posted on Facebook for people to share their best bit of wisdom. And the one that was both the most useful and funniest was never get an IV in the same hand that you wipe with. So I thought, maybe it'd be great to bring up that sort of an idea on YouTube on the video about beauty and cosmetics and fragrance. So if you have any other tips and things that you think are great beauty advice, be sure to leave them in the comments. But we're gonna start out with what I know about fragrance that might be useful to you. So the first thing that I want to bring up is the idea of nose blindness. Febreze did a commercial about this, that you don't smell the things that you get used to. And I think that term of nose blindness is really like critical. For our lizard brains, there's a reason for this. Things that we smell all the time, we start to get rid of in our things that come to the surface that we're aware of. This helped me when I lived in a place with a pulp mill that smelled like sulfur, but after 2 weeks, didn't notice a thing. The air was fresh and clean, like in Labyrinth, Serbidimus. They're sweet, they are fragrant, and none shall pass. But this applies to your fragrance. If you have a scent that you would call this is your signature scent that you wear all the time, often after a while you'll stop smelling it. And this is from the way back where our senses needed to be able to be very attuned to danger. And so any new scents that came about we needed to be aware of because it might kill us. And in this case, it's like, well, we know that the fragrance is safe, we know what it is, and so we're just going to put it in the back and we're not going to really notice it until, that way we can be able to smell the other things. Whenever I walk into the elevator, I know who has been in the elevator by their fragrance. And I at first thought, ooh, maybe I'm an apex predator and I'm smelling things. And then I realized, no, I'm prey. I'm just being able to really smell things because in case I need to be safe, in case there's some other fragrance in the mix that I don't recognize. But as far as your signature fragrance, you should alternate it with something because after a while you will not be able to enjoy it. And a lot of times we wear fragrance so we can enjoy it, not just so other people can enjoy it, but so we can enjoy it. People often come into a fragrance counter complaining that the fragrance is no longer on them, that they can't smell it. Now sometimes this may be because they have awesome deodorant products. They have shower gels or deodorant that are really good at taking away odor, even the good kind. But oftentimes it's because they've become nose blind to it. They started with the spray delay walk away, and then after a while they couldn't smell it, so they added a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and now everyone can smell them but them. So you really need to be alternating a fragrance. Find, even if it's not your signature scent, find another scent that you love that you can alternate with it. That way you can enjoy your fragrance more and other people can enjoy it more also by smelling it less. All right, so the next one. After working in fragrance, I would come home and all of my hands and arms would be covered in different fragrances. The oil would stick to things, you couldn't hardly get rid of it. And what I had to always work with is that oil breaks down oil. If you get sprayed by something in a store, consensually or unconsensually, and you get home and you just can't seem to get it off of your skin, you've got to break it down with oil. So you have to take where the fragrance was, use an oil product or a highly emollient shea butter, something like that, break it down, maybe break it down twice, and then you can use a regular, like a soap cleanse. But if you try and put just soap and water, that's not as effective as if you cut it with oil and then cut it with oil and then use a cleanser. So that's how I had to do it, because when I came home I smelled so awful that I needed to shower, and like I was going through, you know, the cleansing process in the shower, and it still wouldn't go away with the oils unless I just made sure I had like an oil in the shower to do that with. Now 3, so if your skin pH is an issue, wear your fragrance in other ways. The common knowledge is to put it on pulse points, and your pulse points can be anywhere from your ankles, the back of your knees, then to your inner elbow, to your wrist, to your neck, and behind your ear. So those are the points where your veins are closest to the skin and you have the most warmth going through it, and so the warmth will bloom the oil. Now sometimes people can't wear it up towards their face because they get headaches. You can put it on any pulse point in your body if you want to put it behind your knees so it's not quite as concentrated in the face area. You can do that. And also the idea that sometimes your pH is just going to change a fragrance. Where you smell it in the bottle, you smell it on a strip, but whenever it gets to your skin, it smells differently just because of the pH and the oils in your own skin. Some brands really try hard to make the fragrance not as reactive to pH, and other brands go, hey, pH, let's make this perfume specifically pH reactive. So it can go either way, but for the most part, some people have problems with fragrances changing or souring on their skin. So some of the ways you can fight against this. If you have it where it's non-staining, you can lightly spray a scarf or a piece of clothing, but you always want to make sure that you do it on a place that doesn't show, just in case it stains, or on a piece of fabric that you, like a test piece of fabric that you don't care about, so you can see, is this going to stain with the oil? You also want to have that where you're just wafting whatever it is through that, not spraying it on directly, because again, that's oil and that will give you an oil stain. The other thing that they've been doing is hair mists. Now, hair is really porous. If you've ever baked cookies and your hair smells lovely like cookies, or on the opposite, if you've burnt microwave popcorn and your hair will smell like burnt popcorn. So the fragrances that are coming out specifically for the hair are very useful if your skin pH tends to sour things. You want to have something that most fragrances are cut by alcohol. That's how you get the difference between cologne, eau de parfum, and parfum is the amount of other things in it besides the fragrance oil. And alcohol is one of the most general stabilizers that are used for that. So you either need something that's developed for the hair so you're not drying it out with alcohol when you put your fragrance in it, or something that has a different base to it that's not an alcohol mixer. There's a couple of the Dior, the J'adore, that have other sorts of mixers besides alcohol, but for the most part, most fragrances mix with alcohol. So if you can get a hair fragrance specifically that has less on the alcohol and more on some other kind of humectant, that's better. But that's a different way to wear your fragrance if you find that your fragrance sours on you. And then the other idea is that if you work in fragrance or an area where you're getting sprayed fragrance around you all the time, because fragrance is an oil in an alcohol, if it's being sprayed a lot, when I was working in fragrance, my contacts would die so rapidly. You really had to make sure that you cleaned your contacts well, and then that the rate of going through contacts, if you had disposable contacts, was much higher, because they would get sticky and gummy from the oils in the air, and then also the alcohol would be drying to them. So you'd have this weird situation where they were gross and gummy and oily and dry, and the idea that your eyes are walking through this also. So if you work in a fragrance area, or if you're in a place that has a high level of fragrances being sprayed in the air, that's what you're up against, is that. And so if you are working in that or around that, clean your contacts very well and expect that they're going to age out more rapidly, just because the oil and the alcohol in the air. Okay, so that's my fragrance. I think I probably have more of those, but we'll pare it down for the start. Now makeup. One of the other little mnemonics for remembering things, I apply to my first makeup tip. I don't know what your young adult life was like, but I always remember the saying, beer before whiskey is risky, but whiskey then beer, no fear. That was applicable in my earlier life. Now, not so much, but I do think about that when I think about playing around with the established order of makeup application. It's come to me like a lot of the new products are really versatile in that you can put a powder over a cream and a cream over powder and then layer it with another powder. And products themselves are just getting much better as far as that goes. But each product on its own has its own desires. I'm going to say it that way. It has its own desires. So sometimes for the look that you're wanting to create, it's a better idea to apply highlighter and then blush and then your contour or bronzer. Just with the way the sheen is or the way the color is or the way that you're trying to build up your face. So the idea is there's some things, certain products that always need to be done in a certain way. That if you're going to do the cream over the powder, they're gonna take off things or put on things that you don't want or mess with texture, but there are other things that are more pliable, that are more playable, that you can kind of see what they're about. But each one is pretty product specific anymore. How does it play, and can I use it in a different way than I normally do to kind of see if the application order makes a difference, or if I can get a different look with a certain type of cosmetics that I can't get if I'm trying to apply the same product but in a different order. Next is, this is big, plan for big makeup events. There's tons of people who like send their young children in for prom to get their makeup done day of, and that's a problem. For one thing, it's really busy, it takes a long time, your kid might be late, the makeup artist doing it would be late, they might get pressured to buy things that they wouldn't normally, they might end up with a look that is not at all what you would imagined when you were thinking about the prom pictures to last a lifetime. So there's a couple of ways to really combat this, and I'm going to talk about a couple of different other big event sort of ways of dealing with it, but the prom is the first one. If you have a young one or if you are going to a prom, you need to start out a couple months before the prom. You know you're going to go, you know you're going to want makeup in a certain way, and you have an idea maybe of the types of products or the type of look that you're wanting to create. So you need to figure out what that is, and if you are a parent or if you have a parent, there should be some discussion for the night of the prom, like what are we really looking for as a look? Are we looking for goth and the undead, or are we looking for springtime in Vermont? Or something like that, like what are we going for here? And then the idea is to book with someone early to get a trial run. And I'm gonna explain this and use it for my next example also. You need to see how these products are gonna look on you, how they're gonna wear on you, and as far as you're going to be going to a night of dancing, so you're probably going to be sweating, you're probably going to be, maybe putting your face on someone's nice rented tuxedo jacket, or a lovely dress that someone is having, you're going to be resting your cheek against that. So the idea of transfer is an issue, the idea of longevity, and you need to test these things. For me, during prom, we always had a tennis match the day of prom, and so no matter how much sunscreen I put on, I had a bright red nose that came for pictures, and so I had to be trying to find products ahead of time that were going to take down the red Rudolph nose that I had, and I was successful sometimes and not so successful others. But you need to do a trial run of all this. The other thing is, the one product that people on a counter will recommend that you purchase, and I agree with this is not just selling frenzy. Whatever your lip is going to be something you'll probably want to reapply during the event. So you need to have that lip product that looks good, that you like, that's easy to reapply, that you can stick in a handbag or a backpack or whatever you're using to reapply. So whenever you're going in to get a makeup look done and you're thinking about, am I purchasing things, do purchase your lip color. And then do a test run, get the makeup done, wear it. And then if you have a young one that's going to a prom, maybe it's a good idea to take products and practice so that they can put it on themselves, so that the day of they can apply the makeup like the person on a counter would, and be able to do that themselves. That's kind of like, give a man a fish. Give a man a highlighter, you got to be able to use that for life. So that's the idea for prom. Now for wedding, I also think that you need to do a trial run and wear the makeup and wear it for a day like you're going to be having for your wedding. That will include cake in the face, that will include beverages, that might include dancing, that might include being out in a rainstorm, whatever. But you want to do a trial run wearing the makeup that you wear that day. Also, if you're using a lip color, buy the lip color that your artist is using. And you need to talk to them about this, because sometimes when you're working with an artist, they'll want to mix colors or do a thing out of a palette. Just let them know you need to have your lip color with you, because if you get cake smashed in your face and then you need to reapply your lipstick, you need to be able to have that color and something that is going to look good and you can put it on and touch up. So you want to do that trial run, and you want to make sure that is repeatable for you on the day of. The other thing is, a lot of people end up having makeup that's too heavy for what they're comfortable with, so they end up with pictures that they're not happy with because it doesn't look like them. So you really need to be having that conversation when you're not panicked and stranged on the day, and you have an idea of what you're getting into. The other thing that I will say also is that you need to make sure, if you're having your wedding done for your wedding day, that the makeup artist, that their energy is right for you. It makes a huge difference. I know from having actors sit in my chair that if you have somebody who's panicked and strange, your energy, if you're relaxing and you can bring the ocean and the calm and the peace, like that's so much better for somebody who has big nerves for a big day. So if you get in and you're doing your practice run and this person just puts you on edge or makes you feel like you're in imposition or whatever, it's like, you don't need that kind of grief on your day. Like, you need something calm and peaceful and pretty and lovely. And so the person matters and the person's energy matters. So if you're far enough out from your wedding day, you're able to do a trial run, you're able to feel the energy, you're able to understand all these things when you're in your right mind, because most of the people on the day of are not in their right mind. They're just not. They're not even there sometimes, they're elsewhere. So you want to do all these preparatory things when you're in your right mind, and you can be a little bit more discerning about things that you're deciding on that's going to have a pretty big impact. I also would suggest this for photo shoots of any kind. If you're going in and you're going to be having in your office your official business photo taken, to do this trial run, if somebody's going to be doing your makeup, find a look that you like that photographs well. Right there's big for both of them. Try different lights, because even though you think you're going to be inside and you're not worried about it, you might be outside and you need to be worried about it. Things happen, emergencies happen, changes, everything. So make sure, it goes well with flash, with no flash, indoors, outdoors. And then, like I said, for any of these, get your lip color. Just invest in that. That's going to be worth it in the end to have that lip color, and make sure whoever you're working with is using a lip color that you can get and replicate on your own. All right, so that's the big event makeup. The more you can teach your youngsters how to do their makeup, the better. The more you can do pre-runs, dry runs of things when you're in your right mind and you're not stressed. The more you can, if somebody is doing your makeup, get to know them, feel their energy, see what they're using, and figure out what to get yourself. Just the better. The more decisions you can make when you're in your right mind, the better. My last two things, these are brush related. I know this is controversial, but I'm going to put it right out there. You don't need tons of brushes. Now, I came to this when I was doing the big declutter of 2022. I had so many brushes. I had variations on a brush. I had brushes that, I hadn't used in years, but I might. There might be a brush emergency. But none of this is true. Technically, you can get along with a limited number of brushes. Let's take a cheek, for instance. If I'm talking about bronzer, I probably want a puffier brush, and then I want a more chiseled brush that has firmer bristles. And then I want one for cream, which is better, is more of a dense and a specific type of brush. So there's 3 brushes. Now for blush, I might have the same sort of thing. I want a puffy brush for light, for things that are very pigmented, that I just want a light fluff over the face. I want a more dense brush. So if you have blushes that are really hard, that you want that dense brush to get the color payoff, because otherwise if you have a fluffy brush, you're just going to be petting it forever and there will be no color applied to your cheeks. And then you might want a more precision brush for placing it specifically on the cheeks. But as I'm going through this, you'll notice there's this whole repetition of there's 3 brushes at the most that I might need. And some of these can do dual duty. Some of my, if I'm looking for a chiseling, more densely packed brush for contour or bronzer, I can use that for my more densely packed brushes. So in all of these situations, you can really pare down the brushes that you need. You might, I have a fan brush just for those moments when I feel like my highlighter, I just need a wisp or a very thin line of something, or if I have a compact that has one of those very thin lines of the color that I want. But for the most part, I was able to really pare down my brushes, and that made it much easier to handle brush cleaning, which is my last point. I have been struggling with this. I know a lot of people struggle with the brush cleaning. It's the idea that you just go through all of your clean brushes until finally all of your brushes are so dirty you can't use them, and then you have to clean 4 billion brushes. If you pare down your brushes, and the last bit of advice, schedule your brush cleaning. Put it on the calendar, pick a day, just like you would if you're like, okay, I need to, go to the dentist. That's once every 6 months, maybe a little bit shorter time frame. Put it in with your schedule where you've calendared it. It comes up as a reminder, and it's in a day and time and place that's going to be easy, that you're not going to need your clean brushes right after that you can have the day. So if I'm calendaring it, I'm figuring out, okay, if I'm doing it in the morning on this day, I'm not going to need my brushes until morning the next day, so they can have time to dry, or however long with your brushes they're going to take to dry. You figure that in. So you're going to be scheduling it, putting it on the calendar, committing to it, not just, well, whenever they get dirty. They're going to get dirty. They get dirty so fast, and then they're dirty, and they're just dirty sitting there mocking you. So for all of our sanity, I've started putting that in my calendar. And I will send you a reminder in a short if you want, that like, hey, today's brush washing day. But let's just do this. Let's make it where, these are our pain points, and every single YouTuber that you watch complains about having to wash their brushes. It hurts. It hurts deep down. So let's, try and problem solve. So this is what my advice, and we're going to try this and see how it works. Pick a day, calendar it, put it in your phone, put it in your day planner, put it in whatever, but commit to that's going to be brush washing day and stick to it. and we'll provide the cheerleading over here on the side and see how we do. But it's going better for me so far, since I've decluttered. At least 2/3 of my brushes went away on the declutter, and that helped a lot. And so now it's just like I have less. I have to calendar it in, I have to do it, and I have to commit to being the kind of person who has clean brushes. That's very exciting. Like, I'm changing who I am as a person. I can have clean brushes. Who knew? All right, so there you go. All of the information you ever needed. So, share in the comments below, what's your best advice for makeup and fragrance? Let's hear it. We'll come together, we'll solve problems. It'll be awesome. Okay, well, there you go, my best advice. Hopefully, Lord willing and the creek don't rise. We'll see you again for another video this week. All right, have a good day. Bye-bye.